Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you and see so many familiar faces. What I'd like to do today is provide a brief commentary on what we see at the Mayo Clinic happening in healthcare as an industry with the technologies that include artificial intelligence and big data. So what are those national trends? And then what are we positioning ourselves for, and how are we preparing Mayo Clinic to help create the future of medicine? And then I'll end on 3 brief examples of how this is manifesting at the Mayo Clinic. You're all a very, very informed audience, so I won't belabor it, but you know that there are 2 kind of sides of the coin of artificial intelligence today. One is that it's dramatically overhyped, and we're hearing about artificial intelligence, and it seems that every new company and new product has artificial intelligence tagged onto it, whatever that means. So there's this tremendous hype. But by the same token, other side of the coin, most of you and most of us at the Mayo Clinic and beyond, we recognize that there's something to this. So there's this incredible hype, but there is a disruptive force in every industry and frankly in society as a whole that is beginning to play out. We believe that it's a disruptive force for the better, but as you know, there's even a very important debate about that topic. Is this a disruptive force for the better? Is this going to make society or healthcare better or not? And it's a very fair and important conversation. So we see these forces of artificial intelligence, and at the Mayo Clinic, we have a long history of helping to innovate and create the medicine of the future. We formed a task force about 1.5 years ago now to look at how are the intersections of artificial intelligence and healthcare playing out around the globe and at Mayo Clinic. And we found, and just as you've heard some great examples of today and earlier today, there are tremendous amounts of activity in healthcare utilizing artificially intelligent tools and techniques. We also found inside of Mayo Clinic, right away, we found over 150 different projects that are using techniques like natural language processing and machine learning as tools to develop solutions. And we quickly realized that at Mayo Clinic, healthcare provider, healthcare innovator, that we can be a place, and actually are a place, that will take these tools and use them to solve real problems for people who are struggling with complex or difficult healthcare conditions. And that's really been our vision. The vision of the Mayo Clinic as a whole is to be a source of solutions and hope for patients with complex and difficult medical problems or medical mysteries. Now layer on what could happen as we use AI techniques and begin to apply them to big data sets around those kinds of challenges. And it gets very exciting very, very quickly. We also, as was alluded to, we also took a step back. We have very robust academic partnerships and industry partnerships. And we were meeting with the luminaries of computer science at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And we were discussing at their Center for Supercomputing, and we're discussing the very thing we're talking about today. And we all felt that the trouble with the nomenclature of artificial intelligence is simply that A, it seems to be used broadly and without discipline and is overhyped, but B, for many is a bit intimidating because across the United States and beyond, there are many people in different industries, including healthcare, that are asking themselves, am I going to be replaced by a machine? Should I embrace this or not? There was recently a survey of physicians who are grounded in science, and the majority are actually resistant to artificial intelligence applications in healthcare. And think about all the digital technologies that's been thrust into healthcare, sometimes elegantly, but often rather crudely. And it actually has increased the burden of clerical duties on our nation's physicians and nurses. So there's actually a legitimate reluctance to say, what does this future hold? And I'm not just signing a blank check as a physician, a nurse, or a provider, I will not just sign a blank check and say, I'm all in for this wonderful future. I want to know what it holds. So as we were reflecting on that at this meeting in Urbana-Champaign, we kind of landed on the notion of all these tools and all these machines and all these algorithms and all this hardware is created by us, by people. This is, and it really should, and you heard Barbara talk about this in her vignette, it really should help people do their work better and help us solve problems. So inside of Mayo, we're using the term Augmented Human Intelligence, AHI. Requires a little bit of explaining, granted, but it also is a little, in our perspective, a little bit more accurate. So us and Urbana-Champaign and our friends at Arizona State University are kind of moving around this notion. Second point I'd make is that we're very, very proud of now over 200 identified grassroots projects using AI techniques, particularly NLP, which Mayo Clinic is in academia. We're a national leader in this space, but also machine learning and its subsidiary techniques. So we're really, really excited about that. And some of the stuff I'm going to share with you in a couple of minutes is based on this kind of grassroots effort. But our Board of Governors and our Board of Trustees are also challenging us to say, you know what, if we want to embrace the future, we need to lay down infrastructure at the Mayo Clinic to make it easier for innovators, clinicians, scientists, administrators to get access to these tools so that you don't have to be a machine learning expert or become one over a period of years, which is what a lot of our physicians and scientists have done in order to leverage these techniques. So we created the Office of Augmented Human Intelligence. We've created an advisory group. We've created a steering group. We've funded it. We're incredibly excited. And about, actually in a few days, we will announce a call for proposals, and we'll fund up to 6 proposals that help us solve needed problems in the practice of medicine. So we have funding mechanisms, and we're creating more streamlined partnerships with tech industry. So Mayo has a long history of collaborations and partnerships, but what we don't want our innovators to have to do is travel to some will choose to anyway, and will have good reason to, but we don't want them to feel that they must travel to Boston, the Silicon Valley, overseas, to go meet tech entrepreneurs in order to get things done. We're going to bring the tech to Mayo Clinic. And through the AHI office, which is embedded in our Center for Science of Healthcare Delivery, the Kern Center, we'll have all those tools and services available to our innovators. So we're very, very excited about creating the infrastructure that we believe will help accelerate Mayo's response to these incredible opportunities. So the theme of our panel today is actually helping patients, which are people, make good decisions with their healthcare. And at the end of the day, that's what healthcare is, right? I mean, sometimes as a physician, I might forget that and think that I'm in charge and I'm making the decisions, but that's bad medicine. Good medicine is giving information to our patients and their loved ones so that they can make informed decisions around the care that they receive. So this is healthcare. But think of healthcare as empowering people to make good health decisions that will help them meet their personal goals over a long period of time. So we think of it as care that's timely, innovative, and personal. And a few of the examples I'm going to share with you, but I want to frame these a little bit. First one's going to be this, the example you see in front of you. It's a single lead FDA-approved electrocardiogram. And before we get into it, think about this. You know at Mayo how we talk a lot about the pyramid of care, and we talk about at the bottom is everybody, in the middle is people that need a hip replacement or an appendectomy or what have you, and then as you go up you end up with people that need very difficult procedures, a heart transplant or a very rare or difficult diagnosis patient. And imagine now that what if we could turn that pyramid upside down? What do I mean by that? What if we could make the most advanced specialty care available at places like Mayo Clinic that's hard to get to, and we take care of 1.4 million people a year, which is a pretty big number, but it's only a small fraction of the population of the United States, and it's certainly a tiny fraction of the globe. So what if we could find ways to take the incredible expertise that's housed here at the Mayo Clinic and democratize it and actually bring it out to people, to other providers, to make it available to millions, if not billions of people over time. And that could get really exciting. So that's the kind of thing that sounds aspirational and sort of dreamy. So how would you actually make that happen? So Dr. Friedman, Paul Friedman, is a cardiologist here who's been leading a team who's been looking at not only how would a device like this work, which was actually led by an engineering team out in the San Francisco Bay Area. So an engineering team has this idea to invent what you see up on the phone, which is an app and a small pair of electrodes. And I have one in my pocket here. So pretty small, pretty easy. This costs about $75 to $85. And you place your fingers on it, and within a couple of seconds, you get an FDA approved, so high quality, medical grade, single lead, not 12 lead ECG. That's pretty exciting. And these entrepreneurs around this that we're partnered with are creating products and services like you can press a button and have your ECG read, but you can pay $10 and have a cardiologist read it. So we think that's really intriguing. It creates some problems as well as some solutions, like what if you have something serious wrong and you're not plugged into a medical system that you can easily access? But those are solvable. But where it gets really interesting is the algorithms that our cardiology team have developed around this allow for some really interesting insights to be gained. So they've done 2 large training data sets and validation sets, one around recognition of structural heart disease, and this is linked to a gold standard of echocardiograms. So they've developed a series of algorithms that can predict structural heart disease before you have significant, or in some cases, any symptoms. So think about that. So you could then, on your ECG, begin to on your smartphone, begin to identify people that have a potential trajectory of serious heart disease that they may not even know about yet. They might know that they have high blood pressure, they might know that they have other chronic medical conditions, but they may not know they are headed towards serious structural heart disease. The other algorithm that they've developed, as we all know, I'm an emergency physician. Emergency physicians, we all know, and it's widely known in medicine, it has been for a long time, that huge swings in your potassium create readable changes in your electrocardiogram. So we train our house staff to read the ECGs carefully and look for signs of high or low potassium, particularly high, which can cause arrhythmias and cardiac death with very little symptoms in advance of that. But what's interesting is using machine learning algorithms, they have now been able to recognize tiny changes to the ECG that are not visible to the human eye, so that they can accurately predict a patient's serum potassium without actually drawing the blood. So again, think about that. Now think, again, for those of you in healthcare, think about patients that are on medications that can raise their potassium, a handful, some of whom die every year of hyperkalemia. Think about patients with renal insufficiency and renal disease. Again, a handful, actually more than a handful, a significant number who die of hyperkalemia every year. And what if, instead of having to get their blood drawn, which requires trip to a phlebotomist somewhere, you could do this on your smartphone. So you begin to see the possibilities out there, which are really, really incredible, where we can actually bring this kind of specialty care right out to the patient, right out to people, bypassing medical systems altogether. Now, it's important that the medical systems be there to stand behind them. Otherwise, these kinds of systems will fail. But that's just one example of the work we're doing. Another area that's very exciting, helping to empower patients, is using NLP and voice recognition. And 2 examples we have of that. One is a partnership with a company called Sensely that's providing voice guidance to patients who can talk to their device and get healthcare advice for their specific condition. And you can preload the program with all of your health PHI or as much as you choose to. It keeps the data private. We've partnered with the likes of Alexa, with Amazon, to be able to access Mayo Clinic first aid information simply by saying open Mayo Clinic first aid, and then that opens up all of the algorithms for our first aid, which many of you know, but Mayo Clinic has a big fat book full of home first aid advice for people. So we believe, and these are in their infancy, of course, and they're a little, I'll be frank, having tried them, they're a little bit clunky, but think about where this could go. And think about how empowering this will be to patients who can just get the healthcare advice right then, right there where they need it, and get trusted advice that's vetted and guarded and improved over time by us at the Mayo Clinic. We're not the tech experts. We're overseeing and providing the content. And we think those kinds of partnerships are just a small example of what's to come. And the final example I'll share with you is a recent product that we have put out on the Epic software. So Epic, of course, you all know, is a large EHR vendor that we're now deploying at the Mayo Clinic. We have a strategic partnership with them, and we are building solutions for patients and embedding them in Epic. So what you see here are personalized care plans that our team has begun developing so that patients that have a high risk of coming back to the hospital, such as heart failure or diabetes or pneumonia, COPD patients, that their providers can take these templates, which are set up generically at first, and then they can customize them, and it's an interactive daily plan that people can use to make sure they're following their care pathway. Are they weighing themselves? Are they watching their diet? And are they taking their medications? And the more engaged the patient is, the more interactive this tool becomes. So I think that you can see that and these are just 3 of 200 examples going on. So we believe that the future of medicine, and I just was talking to a group of our medical students. I said, there's so much white noise in healthcare in the United States today, and there's so much uncertainty. How are we going to pay for it? What is the right way to make sure Americans have access to high quality care? Some of the solutions may lie in Washington, perhaps, but we believe that most of them are right here in front of us. They are going to be innovations that we can create through partnerships at the Mayo Clinic and beyond that help to meet patients' needs in the future in ways that we have only begun to realize today. Thank you very much.